This is Christopher Moldong of Chris's Storytelling Corner. Today I'm going to do a movie review for Crazy Rich Asians. Next time I'll have a manga review for Skip Beat Volumes 31 and 32, an anime review for Shimoneta, and a movie review for The Predator, the 2018 version. Check out my Twitter page and author's Facebook page. Links to all these will be provided on the description. I'd really like to hear from you guys as well, so leave any comments and make sure to subscribe and share this channel as well. So, the way that this is going to work is that I'm going to give a detailed recap of the movie Crazy Rich Asians and then give my thoughts on the movie. As far as an initial grade goes, I'll give it pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. Like an A minus, maybe a B plus, A minus, um, somewhere around there. So I'll tell you why and my thoughts as well. So let us recap Crazy Rich Asians. Just to tell you, there will have spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, just to tell you, spoilers coming up. So let's get started. So in 1995, Eleanor Young, her son, sister-in-law, and niece arrive at a London hotel with a reservation, only to be told by the receptionist that the room she booked isn't available. Eleanor and the family are turned away by the concierge of the hotel, and she's forced to call her husband using a public phone. She then returns to the hotel, where the owner meets her at the lobby and introduces her to the staff as the new owner of the hotel. In the present, we're introduced to Rachel Chu, an economics professor at New York University in New York City, and she's playing poker with a teaching assistant to demonstrate to her game theory class that in games involving both psychology and choice, the key is playing to win instead of playing not to lose. Rachel accepts an invitation from her boyfriend, Nick Young, to accompany him to Singapore for his best friend Colin's wedding. Nick's mother, Eleanor, learns of the relationship from this rapid online gossip, and Rachel is shocked to learn or shocked when Nick arranges a first-class suite for the flight, and he claims that his family, as far as financially is concerned, is comfortable. In Singapore, Rachel and Nick join Colin and his fiancee Araminta for dinner and kind of like with a bunch of street vendors in a hawker center. The next day, Rachel visits her old college friend uh, Peck Lin. If I get the names wrong, I'm sorry. I'm really bad with names. Who accompanies her to a party thrown by Nick's family. Rachel makes several um, mistakes and quickly realizes that Nick's mother Eleanor dislikes her, but seems to make a good impression on Nick's grandmother. Nick's grandmother comments that she has a good nose. Rachel attends Araminta's bachelorette party at a resort owned by her family, while Nick attends Colin's bachelor party aboard a container ship arranged by their schoolmate Bernard. A woman named Amanda befriends Rachel but deliberately undermines her confidence before revealing that she had previously dated Nick. Amanda sent out a text signaling some of the women who to vandalize Rachel's bed with a dead fish and graffiti calling Rachel a gold digging biatch. Um, well, they use a full word though. Nick's cousin Astrid comforts Rachel, admitting that her life is not perfect either, as her husband Michael is having an affair. When Nick and Colin flee the ship to relax, Nick tells Colin he plans to propose to Rachel. Colin is concerned that Nick's family's disapproval and the couple's cultural differences will be insurmountable. After Rachel vents to Nick about what happened at the bachelorette party, he apologizes to her for concealing his wealth and takes her to make dumplings by hand with his family. Rachel admires Eleanor's distinctive engagement ring, and Eleanor tells her how she met her husband and the sacrifices she made to be part of the family. While looking for the bathroom, Rachel spots Eleanor, who tells her that Nick's grandmother disapproved of her, Eleanor, and denied Nick's father the family ring. and tells Rachel she will never be good enough for Nick. Rachel considers leaving Singapore, but Peklin convinces her to stand up to Eleanor, giving Rachel a glamorous makeover before the wedding with help from Nick's cousin Oliver. Meanwhile, Astrid tells Michael she knows he is cheating on her and they break up. At well, they actually separate because they're husband and wife. They don't just break up per se. They more or less separate. At the wedding, Rachel displays a remarkable degree of social grace, which earned the admiration of many people, and she even manages to befriend Princess Intan, who is normally cold and reserved, played by Chris Aquino, if I'm not mistaken, a Filipina actress. Um, However, at the reception, Eleanor and Su Yi pull Rachel's side, and Su Yi, the grandmother, and reveal that they hired an investigator to research Rachel's background, discovering that Rachel was conceived through an adulterous affair. After which, Rachel's mother, Carrie, abandoned her husband and fled to America. Rachel, stunned, as her mother had lied to her, saying that her father was dead. So Eleanor and Sui demand that Nick stop seeing Rachel for fear of a scandal, and Rachel runs away in tears as Nick chases after her. But his grandmother threatened to disown him. Rachel pretty much falls ill and stays for several days at Peck Lynn's house. She's surprised to discover that Carrie has arrived, that her mother has arrived in Singapore to visit her, and it's because she just kind of surprises her. And then her mother explains that her husband was abusive and that she became pregnant from an old classmate who was trying to comfort her, later fleeing for fear of her life from her husband, from pretty much her husband's reprisals. Her mother reveals that Nick arranged her visit and urges Rachel to reconcile with him. When they meet up, Nick proposes to her. We don't actually hear whether she says yes or no. Rachel meets Eleanor at a mahjong parlor and explains that she declined Nick's proposal in order to prevent the ruin of Nick's relationship with his family. Nick is really close to his family, despite some of the strenuous relationship they had. She tells Eleanor that one day down the road, Eleanor will look back and realize that she is pretty much in Rachel's debt. And Rachel intentionally loses the mahjong game to Eleanor, which kind of symbolizes her sacrifice, and then walks away with her mother, who is kind of sitting at a different table. Shortly afterward, Astrid and her son move out of Michael's apartment. Rachel and her mom board an economy class flight back to the U.S. However, Nick arrives in the plane and proposes again on the plane, like inside the plane in economy class, before it's about to fly, of course. This time with Eleanor's ring. Rachel accepts and they stay in Singapore an extra day for an engagement party, during which Eleanor is there and pretty much reveals some sort of grudging respect for Rachel just by kind of showing up. There's a mid-credit scene, which I actually missed, but apparently Astrid exchanges glances with her ex-fiance, uh, Charlie Wu. Um, is that right? Yeah. Well, anyways, so before we get into my thoughts on the movie, I'd like to plug my author's website at www.chrismoldong.com, and you can read a new blog post there every week. Also, do you like action, adventure, fantasy? Then buy my book, The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom, for just $4.99 via ebook on Amazon.com or on my author's website. Links to buy it will be provided on the page description. Please also make sure to subscribe to this channel as well, as that would really help me out. So, let's get to my thoughts on the movie. Let's go start with the characters. Let's start with Rachel. If you describe Rachel, it's definitely a Cinderella story with her. I mean, she is obviously, you find out in the beginning of the movie that she is pretty quick on her feet, a strong woman, pretty independent as well. She doesn't like she can take care of herself in a sense. Um, and it's just really surprised about what's going on with Nick and her family and his family, and the fact that like he's really rich. I mean, crazy rich. Haha. Um, but she handles the situation as best as she can. As a commoner dealing with all these super rich people and whatnot. You have Nick Young, played by Henry Golding, who's Rachel's boyfriend, and Eleanor and Philip, Philip's son. One thing about Nick is that he really is, and this kind of bugged me actually. I think he's too much of Prince Charming. Like really, the guy, like I, I think he did his part well. He seemed understanding, a good guy, someone that's still tied to his family but isn't overwhelmed like some of his brothers by how much wealth they have. And in that sense, and then Rachel likes him for who he is and not because he's rich. But at the same time, it's like the dude's just kind of too perfect, in a sense. And like I said, it's kind of, if you want to go with like this Prince Charming Cinderella thing going on, I mean, it kind of plays out that way. Whereas the person that struggles a lot more, Nick struggles, but he deals with every situation. Like, things kind of work out pretty perfectly for him. Yeah, there's some struggle with him and whatnot, but like, he seems to do everything perfectly. I mean, like almost everything. He didn't explain to Rachel that like he's super rich and he has a family and a strict mother and whatnot. That is also the family's just super wealthy and whatnot. He kind of did hide his past from her, so he's not absolutely perfect. But like throughout the whole movie, it's the guy's kind of flawless. The way he handles the situations and whatnot. Like he doesn't want to be in that bachelor party in the ship. He goes to hang out with Colin, just two guys in paradise, and like this, like in the ocean. Where were they? Like in between islands, or what would that be called? Just drinking beers with his buddy, having a heart to heart, Oh, Rachel rejects his engagement, but then like he calls the mom. I mean, it's just kind of like by the end, he kind of just he like I say, he's just a little too perfect, but I mean it fit, because like it contrasts with Rachel's it's more about Rachel than Nick, anyways. Nick is the son, the prodigal son who's supposed to take over the business. He has everything. Rachel is the one that's more middle class, that has to struggle along the social elite here. Speaking of social elite, though, Michelle Yeoh playing Eleanor, Sung Young, who's the mother of Nick. Great choice. And I've seen her in so many movies, and she can just play that serious, domineering type, just that really traditional Asian mother, that's really like stuck with tradition, to raise their kid in a strict manner. I can actually kind of relate. I have a lot of friends that have some really traditional Asian parents. Um, I can imagine. I can honestly imagine Nick was forced to study a lot. I mean, I have a lot of friends, Asian friends, whose parents just pretty much force them to study, 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 study all day. And she seems like the mom that would do that. She still sticks with tradition despite the fact that the world around her and her situation calls for more extravagance and quite honestly decadence too. You talk about, and I'll get to that later, tradition and culture there's a lot of decadence with this wealth as well. Um, and then you kind of see that with Astrid Long Teo, played by Gemma Chan, um, who's Nick's cousin, who gets along really well with Nick and eventually gets along really well with Rachel. I gotta say this right now. She is just beautiful. I mean, wow. Like, she's beautiful. She didn't have a big role in here. She's one of the stronger women of the movie. Um, you know, and her husband, Michael, was definitely, he definitely felt emasculated around Astrid. So, I mean, honestly, by the time everything happened, I mean, he was kind of mad at his wife for him cheating on her. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the dude's fault. I mean, I'm not gonna make any. I don't really find this a shade of gray thing. He make at the end of the day, he makes a choice. And he chose to cheat on his wife. And really, at the end, she's all like, "Yeah, it's not my job for you to be a man," And it's like, "Yeah, exactly, Michael." But like they kind of establish early on that she's still nice. She's still like, despite being rich and extremely extravagant. I mean, she's buying $1 million earrings, has like 14 hotels and whatnot, super fashionable and whatnot. She's still, she's not totally overtaken by the wealth, and that's probably why she probably gets along with Nick a little better than the rest of Nick's family, who seems to be overtaken by the wealth, the prestige, um, and whatnot. So in that sense, I liked Astrid's character a little more because she is still a bit more down to earth than some of the other characters, and one of the stronger female, one of the stronger female characters. I mean, you know, um, so yeah, and then you don't get to see much of Nick's grandmother. It was actually really, but she was there, Su Yi, and Shang Su Yi, and she's the matriarch of the family. Didn't really accept Eleanor. I mean, Eleanor was like the fourth or fifth choice to marry um, Su Yi's son. Yes, yeah, and but she seems to like Rachel. So it was a really weird dichotomy there. Like I actually didn't understand. It's just a nose, or like what? Like it wa- it threw me off. Like how is it that she didn't really accept Eleanor, yet she accepted Rachel right away? I didn't really explain that quite well. Um, but otherwise, definitely, you know, she's a symbol of like tradition right there. Whereas someone that's a little different would be Peklin, who's Rachel's best friend and whatnot. She's more definitely more liberal, free, more of a free spirit type, a bit more extravagant. Probably falls closer to decadence than like tradition, and her family's a little bit like that too. I mean, she's pretty rich herself, and she's not poor. She's just not as rich as the Youngs, Peck Lynn. But she plays. It's kind of weird because it's like she kind of plays a commoner, but she's not a commoner. She is really rich. If anything, if we're gonna go with the Cinderella thing, I guess she's kind of like the fairy godmother if you think about it. You know, She's the one that supplies the dress and the makeover to Rachel. She's the one that Rachel goes to. Pecklin seems to make the magic for Rachel until the clock strikes. You know, the proverbial clock strikes midnight. You know, and she finds out about that scandal and whatnot. But then, who does she go to? Pecklin. You know, so she is a good friend of hers. Still down to earth, even though she's super rich and whatnot. Her father, played by Ken Jeong, it was just really funny guy. Um, you know, he's very much a dad of just like, um, bad jokes. Can't really read the room really well and whatnot. Other characters we're introduced to would be like Araminta Lee and Colin, who's Nick's best friend. We don't get to see too much of Araminta. I don't really know. I mean, she liked Rachel, but it seems like, man, it did come across strange to me that she was so oblivious and not really a part of the whole. I mean, like, I understand she's not directly involved with the hazing, but it's kind of like, Rachel went to Astrid, after the whole fish incident, and then it's like, where was Araminta during this whole time? Like when Rachel, well, when that thing happened to Rachel, that kind of confused me. And then you saw Colin. Didn't get to know too much about him, but he just seems like a normal guy, good friend to Nick as well. We were introduced to Amanda Ling, who was Nick's former girlfriend. She was, acted like her friend, and then it turns out that, like, oh, hey, I'm not really who I seem, Michael Teo, who's Astrid's husband's kind of the same way too. If you think about that, it's like he's from the army. He's more of a commoner type, and then he's not who he seems. He's not a faithful husband. He's more coward. More emasculated, brought down, and ends up cheating on. Was cheating on Astrid, and then we had Carrie Chu, who's Rachel's mom, strong woman, and that's kind of one of the themes in this Crazy Rich Asians are the influence of mothers. And you see that with Rachel's mom, Eleanor, Sue Yi. They're all like strong matriarchal types. Astrid too, actually. I would put her in that category as well. Just it's the women that kind of are the driving force. Despite the wealth, the guys. I mean, the young women and the guys especially though are, and it's understandable. They need to be more reined in, and the women are kind of the ones that kind of rein them in. And that's kind of shown throughout the movie. Not to say this isn't like really a feminist movie or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. It's more nuanced actually. In that sense, if you look at that, and it's more of a romantic comedy Cinderella story type of movie. Certain things I really like about this movie: music, costume, setting. I mean, the music, they were playing like American songs sung by Asian singers, and sung in like in, like, is it Chinese or different, like an Asian language. Um, some of the stuff these people were wearing, you can tell was really expensive. Um, you definitely get like a peek into like this rich life. The settings, I mean, the ship on top of the three in Singapore on top of the three skyscrapers. The mansion, dude, that mansion when they're like they have that overhead shot of the mansion and just the acreage and just the yeah, it's a compound, but it looks like like the size of a small town. I mean, it is just money, and they really drive home that point of like this is money. This the extravagance is really apparent. I mean, the wedding with everything, everything was just high levels of extravagance, and that kind of led to the decadence, which is just the moral corruption of the culture itself. You saw the tradition. Eleanor really tries to keep the tradition alive. Um, you saw it when they made the dumplings and whatnot, how they treated the grandmother, that flower ceremony thing and whatnot. Um, they're trying to keep the tradition alive in the face of this absolute extravagance and wealth around them, and so you kind of see the tradition there, but you also see the decadence there too. The money doesn't exactly help continue the tradition. There's one of the family members that was just so uppity. He really did have, you know, a stick up his butt pretty much, and his family to look perfect. They take a shot. He needs the optimal shots. He wants, he's all about that money. You have that guy that's the direct, the other guy that's a director that's like dating the terrible actress, and it's just, you have that, like, the kind of like the moral decay of the culture that's being established by the mom, and they can only live that way because of the tradition, and keeping that culture. But you can tell in the cracks that, like, there really is, like, the money also makes the decadence. I keep bringing that up, but I only bring it up because I like to contrast, the tradition, the culture versus contrasting the decadence of it all, and how, like, you know hard work, traditional values kind of got them, where they are, and super rich. It's traditional conservative values, working hard, you know, trying to please the mom and whatnot, being kind of more strict, and then they get the money, and then everyone else is also super rich, but they're not all, super they're making dumplings together, and then they're going out. The guy that's going at that's complaining to his wife that they're not in, like, the right Vogue magazine. That the other guy dating the terrible actress and whatnot. So I really like that in this movie. Speaking of this movie, there is a sequel. Apparently on August 22nd, following the film's strong opening, Warner Brothers confirmed a sequel was in development, with Shirley and Lim returning to write the script, and it's based on the book's sequel, China Rich Girlfriend. Um, a lot of the main characters, Chu, um, Wu, Golding, Yao, they all have options for a sequel. Even though a lot of the key actors are committed to other projects until 2020. So it made a lot of money. They have the source material to work with, not just one sequel but two sequels, because there's like three books. They have a good story going because you have a traditional romantic comedy, really. This is not uncommon. It's like, you've seen it with Cinderella. You have the commoner girl, meaning the rich, super rich guy. That is in a lot of romantic comedies. But when you add the Asian slant to it, the tradition, like the strong family ties and whatnot, the bigger family and whatnot, and just that Asian influence, I think it really does a good job of separating it from other romantic comedies that are just more traditional, like boy meets girl, they fall in love, stuff happens, they may or may not get together. at the end. You know, and it's just kind of, most romantic comedies fall into that, are pretty much that. This one, when you add everything else, and the extravagance too, it really differentiates itself from your traditional romantic comedies. I've seen a good amount of romantic comedies myself, so yeah. In that sense, I hope they keep, in the sequel, I hope they really keep some of the things that made this one good. So that's all for today. If you like this, don't forget to subscribe, share, and comment to this channel. Thank you for listening to this movie review. Next time, I'll have a manga review for Skip Beat Volumes 31 and 32, an anime review for Shimoneta, and a movie review for The Predator, the 2018 version. Thank you, and until next time.